Hey everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't do so many tags anymore, but this is one that I like doing because it kind of helps me to look back at the first half of the year, kind of see the things that I really enjoyed, what I still kind of want to get to in the second half, see if I'm, reading what I really enjoy over the year or what I should be picking up instead in the second half of the year. So let's get started at the beginning. So the first question is the best book you've read so far. And I will have to say, I think the best book I've read so far is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which is kind of a surprise for me because I didn't finish ever Shadow and Bone, but I just really enjoyed this. And this has been around for a while. People have been enjoying this for years, and I wasn't interested for a long time because I didn't like Shadow and Bone, but high story, ensemble cast, it's fast paced, it moves around, as soon as there might be a moment that it's settling, we move to a different character. So I really enjoyed this and I'm excited to read the second one. So best book I've read so far this year. The best sequel I've read so far this year is Lost in the Moment and Found by Seanan McGuire. And I don't remember what number this is in the series. And some of the more recent ones weren't 5 stars for me, but this one is probably my favorite in the whole series, maybe. I think it just had a lot of symbolism, kind of the topic it was revolving around. I think the way she approached it was very symbolic and, almost had me crying. Yeah, so this is about a character we had met previously. Her name is Ancy, and this is her single story. Some of the books in the series, in the Wayward Children series, take place in the modern world where they're at the school for wayward children or whatever. And then some of them are in the world that these children go into. And this is one where Ancy is in her world, and it does evolve around child abuse. So just so you know that is something that this is tackling. And it's kind of the way she symbolizes, it's the metaphor she creates of what Ancy was going through in her real life, this world, and then how that matches what she experiences in the world she goes into. And the world she goes into is kind of a world where they're gathering things from other worlds. So we get to experience other worlds too, and doors to other places. And so I thought this was really excellent. Favorite sequel so far this year. Next is a new release you haven't read yet but want to, and I have 2 for this because I have both an audiobook that I have on my phone that I've been wanting to get to, and then a physical book. So the audiobook I really want to listen to is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I had this as an advanced listening copy from Libro FM, and then I just had too many from that month, and so I didn't actually get to it. But I definitely want to get to that. This is her new romance. At this point, it's a standalone. I don't know if she's going to end up creating a new series from this one, but I've heard good things. And the physical book I got, this just came out did it just come out in May? It might have, or April. This is The Incandescent by Emily Tesh, and I've been hearing really good things so far this year about this book, and I'm really excited to read it. It's because it's a school setting, but it's from the teacher. So I think it's kind of a dark academia fantasy, but we're following the teacher instead of the students. And I think that she's middle-aged, and I've just heard good things. I have liked other things by Emily Tesh, so I am definitely looking forward to reading this. I went out and bought it pretty much right after it came out. So definitely want to read that one. Next is the most anticipated release from the second half of the year. And basically that's just all of the T. Kingfisher books we're going to get this year. We're getting 3 books by her this year, and they all come out in the second half of the year. She's made us wait the whole time, but we are getting 3. So in August, we're getting Hemlock and Silver, which is a Snow White retelling. And so I love the way she does her fairy tale retellings. They're always on the dark side, and I really enjoy them. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then in September, we get What Stalks the Deep, which is book 3 in her Sorn Soldier series. And I loved book 1 in this series, What Moves the Dead, and I really enjoyed book 2 as well. More because I like the characters at this point. I don't think the plot of number 2 was as good as the first one, but still enjoying following these characters. So I'm interested to see what she does with these characters in the third book. Maybe the plot will also pull me in more in that one. And then in November, we're getting Snake Eater, which is a fantasy horror. And sometimes her horror is not my favorite, but hopefully this leans more towards fantasy, because I find that I like more of her fantasy stuff than her like pure horror. So if it leans more fantasy, it'll be great. And I really enjoy the cover of this one. I think it looks really interesting. So all 3 T. Kingfisher books I am looking forward to this year. Next is Biggest Disappointment. And I have 2 for this because they're just tied with me of like really disliking. And I had actually just talked about them in my April wrap-up, May wrap-up, whatever wrap-up we did last. I think it was May. Yeah, because we're in July now. In my May wrap-up, I talked about these, so I won't go into depth, but it was because they're from series, and I was excited to read them because they were in a series, and then they did not turn out good. One is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the last book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and it went like completely off the rails. It did not have the same stuff that I enjoyed from the first 2 books. It was all the stuff I didn't enjoy got carried into this book, and didn't have really a mystery to solve. And so it just, I almost didn't finish it, but I feel like when it's like a mystery series, I wanted to see the end, but I really felt like I was wasting my time reading this one. It's also really long. So yeah, that one was a big disappointment. And the other one was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I actually hadn't originally wanted to read this one, but because the other prequel just came out, I figured I should read it. And I was right the first time when I thought I didn't want to read Snow's Story. I really didn't enjoy this. I felt like it didn't need to even be written, which I don't usually say that about books, but I just don't understand the point of this one. I didn't like being in Snow's head at all. So those 2 were part of series and were my biggest disappointments and my worst books of the year as well. And then next, my biggest surprise was one I just read recently, so I haven't talked about this one yet in my wrap-up, which I'm going to film right after this, so that'll be up soon. And that's Gross Indecency, The 3 Trials of Oscar Wilde by Moises Kaufman. And this is a play, and I think it surprised me because, I enjoy reading plays. I also enjoyed Moises Kaufman's other play that I had read, The Laramie Project. I gave that one 5 stars. I gave this one 5 stars. But I think it was a surprise because this is like more of a nonfiction kind of play, like it's based off of real life, because he's taking the transcripts from the actual trials of Oscar Wilde, mixing them in with also some of Oscar Wilde's works, and then, other things from that time period. And so I thought that would seem more like historical and not really as interesting, but it was really good. I really enjoy I guess enjoy is not the right word. It was like a glimpse into society at this time, and it was fascinating. So not necessarily enjoyment, fascinating, and how the way society views people, in this case, like Oscar Wilde's relationship with men, and can like ruin a life, like ending up like, that's probably why he ended up dying so young, because of being in a really horrible prison setting. It was just really good. It was a surprise because I didn't think it was going to be as interesting as it was, but it was really interesting. Next is Favorite New Author. And I didn't have any authors that are like new favorites that I just started reading this year, but I cemented an author that is just going to be an auto buy for me, and that is Robin Wall Kimmerer. I had read Braiding Sweetgrass a couple years ago and gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. And then this year I read The Serviceberry, and this is just a tiny little book, more of a essay really, but absolutely loved it. Have already tried to like give this to several people and recommend it to them. And I do have one more of her books on my shelf. I have Gathering Moss, which I'm not even interested in moss at all, but I want to read it because I just enjoy the way she writes and the way she talks about the natural world and then our relationship with it. I just find so calming and just so rational. Like this book especially, I feel like in our current climate, if you're feeling like frustrated about the way, politics or the economy is going, I think reading this gives me some hope of like what we could do as a society if we chose to. And I just think she gives hope, and she gives rational thinking and also just a lovely connection with nature. And so she has cemented herself as a favorite author of mine with reading that second book. And then the next one is newest fictional crush. And I would say, I wouldn't say fictional crush. I would say more, I really enjoy the dynamics between this couple. And that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And so Emily Wilde and, what is his name? Wendell. I just really like their dynamics. And I really enjoy how, even though they have this kind of like, I don't know, they start off, you know, they're co-workers, you know, colleagues at a university, and they kind of are at odds with each other often, and Emily's like often irritated with him, but you could tell that he has the utmost respect for her and her like scholarly ability and her as a person. And so when she gets herself into like real life drama, you know, like with the fairies, he's like there to support her every step of the way, but not just like to come in and rescue her, but to like be like, okay, what can we do? I'm gonna follow along with your plan and I'm gonna help you accomplish it. And like, he's just by her side, and just like his respect for her and the way they interact, even though they're at odds a lot of times. Yeah, I really enjoyed their dynamics, and I enjoyed him as a, you know, love interest main character. And so that is my answer for that one. And then the next question is book that made you cry. And that one is one I read recently. I'm also going to be talking about this in my wrap up. Hazel Bly and the Deep Blue Sea by Ashley Herring Blake. And this revolves all around grief, and it's a middle grade novel. So it's like, I felt like so true of how a child would view grief. So in this, our main character has lost one of her moms, and she was there when her mom died. And so she has survival guilt at the same time as also having grief. And just like that raw emotion and seeing it from a child's eye, and it just felt actually really true of how a child would feel all that guilt, and then also fear and needing their other parent, but the other parent's also grieving and maybe doesn't know exactly how to be there for their child. Yeah, so I just thought this was great, and I was like crying at several points, just like from the emotion that was in here and how true it felt to being like a child's view of this. So that's the book that made me cry. And the book that made me happy was Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I was just like smiling and giggling throughout this. It's like the way her humor is, but then also just the romance. The main character's like, you know, a paladin, so he's like can kill and has killed and all that stuff, and is like a bodyguard, but then he's also sitting in the corner knitting socks, and he's just so sweet to our, you know, female main character, and it just put a smile on my face the whole time. So yeah, this made me really happy. The next one is most beautiful book you bought so far this year, and I am a sucker for a shiny book. I will just tell you that. That's what I love. And so I've got a couple here. I have The Raven Scholar, which I love the raven on it. I love that it's shiny. And then I also have Under the Same Stars, which this, not that exciting. But when you take off the cover, I mean, look at that. That is the tree is so beautiful. And then it's got the like sprayed edges with the bark, like the inner part of the tree, and then the end pages, like, yeah, that's a beautiful book. So those are two of the most beautiful books that I have bought so far this year. And the last prompt is books that you need to read by the end of the year. And I will be doing a separate video where I look at my goals for this year. So I had my 25 books to read in 2025 and my big books to read in 2025. I'm gonna do a separate one where I talk about where I'm at on those lists. But if I were gonna just like pick a few that I wanna read before the end of the year, and that would be sequels to books I really enjoyed so far. So I have the sequel to Paladin's Grace, which I have started. I have Paladin's Strength, so I would love to continue that series and pick it up more since I have been reading it. I just put it aside to read like more Pride books in June, so I need to pick that one back up. And then I need to read Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, Excited to read that sequel and see that couple's dynamic again. And then Crooked Kingdom, and this would be finishing a series. If I could just finish a duology this year, that'd be great. And I enjoyed Six of Crows. Like, if it's my favorite book so far this year, I should read the sequel and finish it off. So those are the ones that I would like to finish before the end of the year. And that's it for me. If you want to talk about any of these books, I would love to hear from you down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.